Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spiritblade Productions, here to give you my final thoughts, as well as what I think for me are the hidden gems and my top 5 favorite games of E3 2019. As we wrap up here, let me first share what remains of my jaded predictions and unrealistic wishes. Sony, I had a few thoughts about. My jaded prediction was that we would get absolutely nothing from Sony or its representatives that would be leaked or announced from June 8th through the 13th, and there would be no reason to talk about Sony apart from wondering what they will do next in light of their competitors or third-party partners' E3 reveals. And that was not entirely true. Throughout E3, they posted numerous trailer videos on their YouTube channel that either announced or confirmed a number of multi-platform titles coming to PlayStation 4. So if you felt starved of PlayStation news during E3, you can go over to their YouTube channel and see which games they confirmed or announced would be coming to PlayStation 4 throughout the week. My first unrealistic wish for Sony was that although they would have no press event or state of play video during E3, Sony would announce that a state of play is incoming immediately following E3 week or post one just before E3 week. We didn't get either of those. They've just been quiet, and so we'll have to wait and see when the next big thing is from them that they decide to tell us about. And then my final unrealistic wish is that Sony would just kind of get a message out there in some way through other parties that are present at E3, or just make an exciting announcement online during E3 week, like PlayStation 2 disc-based backwards compatibility. No. They were just completely radio silent. All right, so let's go through some rapid-fire general wishes that I had for E3 2019 and whether or not they came through. No to my wish for a sequel to Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. No to significant news about Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter World knockoff games. They did talk more about Iceborne, but not really significant new information. No to an absence of CG trailers without accompanying gameplay. I thought we had lots of trailers without gameplay as kind of the norm in conferences this year, with a few exceptions. No to something appealing to me that's, surprise, available now, but, you know, hey, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is releasing this coming Tuesday, and Dragon Quest Builders is coming the first half of July, so I'm good as far as my here it comes right now kind of itch needing to be scratched. No to my game design revolution idea of failure adaptivity. You can see my wish list video for more information about that. No to a new BioShock. No to a Singularity 2. No to a single-player Justice League DC Universe action RPG. No to an announcement of an easy mode and option to turn off nudity for Cyberpunk 2077. No to lots more Atomic Heart info and a 2019 release date. There was nothing about Atomic Heart for the second year straight, which surprised me a little bit. And no to Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2 and Icewind Dale announcements that they will include console commands for their PlayStation 4 release. Let's get to a few of the things that did come true on my wish list. Yes, for the most part, to a celebration of gaming, but without assigning more value to games than they deserve. That can certainly be a tendency at E3, but I didn't think that really happened, at least among presenters this year. And I think that the absence of EA and Sony conferences probably contributed to that. Yes, to entertainment. I didn't think that the conferences themselves were like maybe the best conferences as far as showmanship goes that we've seen, you know, in a while. But there was one moment that got me more excited than I've ever been watching E3 coverage, and that was the reveal for the Terminator content that's going to be coming to Ghost Recon Breakpoint at some point. It just had me shouting in my office for the first time ever while watching E3 coverage, which my wife thought was pretty cute when she heard me from the next room, and she texted me to tell me so. So that was definitely a highlight for me. Yes, to my wish of short wait times for a few announced games. Greedfall, Gods and Monsters, Watch Dogs Legion, and Final Fantasy VII got a release date announced, all coming really pretty soon. There were a few far out games that were announced or featured, but there were plenty of featured games that are releasing before the next E3 or even in the next 6 months, which is really cool for me. And then arguably, yes, to a tease for some kind of open world fantasy RPG where you can play as a dedicated magic user. I say arguably because there's a lot I don't know about Greedfall. I do know that it's not a true open world RPG, but close enough, and it appears to have lots of skill tree options, including one that emphasizes magic, so I'll take that as a win for now, but we'll likely still have that on my wish list again next year, especially if Greedfall doesn't float my boat. Okay, let's get on to Hidden Gems and just stay on the topic of Greedfall for a moment. This one's coming out September 2019. There was a little trailer for it during the Xbox conference, but you really had to kind of dig to find more information about this game, which I did. Seemingly, it takes place in a fantasy world, but that is that's inspired by the real-world colonial period of America. Your character is a colonist who, along with many others, is suffering from some kind of magical curse. You have to ally yourselves with the natives, employing the use of their strange magics to hunt down the source of this curse to hopefully find a cure for yourself and everyone else afflicted by it. The change in aesthetics, just using that colonial age as aesthetic inspiration, and some Native American types of things as inspiration as well, it wins some real points with me just for being a bit different, and also wins points for me for being kind of brown. I know for a while people were saying, oh man, all the trend in all the games is to be brown and gray and just dark looking, and so for a while people were like, oh, it's so nice to see color in games again, and yeah, I mean, that's nice too, but I was like, I tend to like things that are grim and gritty and serious, and so to see that this game had a pretty serious look to it, a very brown look to it, was cool for me. However, big red flag for me, this is from Spiders, the studio that made Technomancer, which I found to be pretty disappointing. You can watch my review on that on the Christian Geek Central YouTube channel. The previews are saying that Spiders has learned from their past experiences, and specifically Technomancer, in addition to their other games, but in my mind it's like, well, we'll see. I did see some of the combat, and it does look different from Technomancer's, which was my big hang-up in Technomancer's, was the combat. This game has an extensive skill tree, but the only previews that have been made available are hands-off. It does feature companions with quests and relationship systems, and so it's clearly taking inspiration from Dragon Age types of games. It also has tactical pause in the combat, as in the Dragon Age games and Final Fantasy XII, which to my mind, I'm like, woohoo, that is possibly my favorite kind of RPG combat system. The combat might be tough, though, which I'm not always a fan of, especially in action RPGs. The most recent footage shows a boss taking 3/4 of the hero's health from just a single hit. I'm like, oh my gosh. However, there are multiple difficulty levels, and that footage was likely taken from the normal difficulty mode of the game. Also, you can reportedly avoid most combat if you want to. I'm not sure how reliable that info is, but it looks like this is a game that is very much about navigating relationships and using charisma to influence people in different ways and sneaking around and just finding alternate ways of completing quests aside from just the standard combat route. There are also multiple factions in the game that you can effect, and every quest and activity serves the story, and your choices also affect the world and your relationships, including, choices you make, like who you steal from or who you kill, so it looks like they're going for all killer, no filler. It's not an open world game, but it's a very, compact and rich in terms of the types of quests you take on. More than one time I heard them emphasize, there are no fetch quests in this game. All the quests are meaningful in their attachment to the main story. The game is reportedly about 35 hours long, which sounds like a really good kind of RPG experience. So we will see, but I think that's definitely one that could potentially be overlooked that a number of people might be very interested in. The second of my hidden gems is called Blasphemous. This is an indie game coming out on 2019 on all platforms. It's inspired by Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I love that type of platform slash RPG type of thing. You know, I'm not good at platforming games, but I do like jumping around if it's not overly complicated. That's kind of a fun perspective from which to play from, and to add RPG elements to that so I can grind my way out of trouble is really appealing to me. Now, this one is not exactly going to feel like Symphony of the Night. It is gothic and has that gothic setting and a medieval fantasy vibe. It specifically draws its aesthetics heavily from an influence of medieval Christianity. The main character is even called the Penitent One and uses a sword called the Mea Culpa, which is a Latin phrase expressing admission of one's own guilt. It's super, super dark and with like these heavy ritualistic Christian trappings, you know, to it. The devs say that they grew up surrounded by religious aesthetics that are inspiring the game, but we're also clear to say the game itself is not a commentary at all, which was really interesting to me when you look at the footage of this game, how heavily inspired it is by medieval Christian imagery, and it's presented in such a dark fashion. I'm like, there's no commentary here? Are you sure maybe not on a subconscious level, you know? And so I just wondered, is this commonplace? You know, is this, is that maybe a sign of just the influence of relativism, how it's really a focus on aesthetics and not on logic and reason, where for me, I'm like, these aesthetics that you're bringing to this game, they cry out in terms of their attachment to truth claims and a belief system that many people held to, or that in a different form hold to still, you know. And so I'm just thinking, really, like, you're not bringing any commentary at all that has anything to do with the Christian faith. You're just using the aesthetics and completely putting out of your mind any of the themes related to Christianity or any part of the cultural history of the trappings of Christianity. So I'm just like, I'm kind of baffled by that. But anyway, it does have some minor RPG elements. There's no looting really, but there's an upgrade system that allows you to upgrade your sword techniques. There's a skill tree for your sword techniques that you feed by killing enemies. And I'm like, okay, well, that could be helpful to me, but being offensively powerful doesn't mean that I won't still die very easily, so I'm not sure. It could still be too difficult for me. It is reportedly intended to be a fairly difficult game. But if I can somehow grind my way out of trouble by making my attacks more powerful, maybe that'll help. I don't know if you can increase your health bar at all, but we'll see. It's roughly a 20-hour game, and at the very least has my interest, and I imagine will be interesting to other people that are big fans of the Symphony of the Night style Castlevania games. Finally on my list of hidden gems is Gods and Monsters, coming out February 25th, 2020. This was very briefly featured during Ubisoft's press conference, and there was a lot of mystery in my mind about, like, what is this thing? It's from the creators of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, inspired by Greek mythology. It's a full-on fantasy game. All of that you can see from the brief teaser that they showed. What puts this on my hidden gems list is that Matt Miller of Game Informer saw the game and reportedly said, in an admittedly informal kind of fashion, basically, it's Breath of the Wild, he says. After seeing a brief bit of gameplay, not much at all, you know, a minute or so, but, you know, this is a guy who has been doing what he does for a while, and, you know, I believe that if he looks at a game and says it's Breath of the Wild, that he probably, you know, sees enough to say, yeah, it's this open world style of experience that's either inspired by or very similar to, in many ways, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, and that also makes sense given that this is by the creators of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is a huge open world, you know, action RPG type thing. So if that's the case, I'm probably in. Ubisoft just seems to make open world games that increasingly are what I'm interested in playing. So February 25th, 2020, I'll be very curious to give Gods and Monsters a try. All right. And now, my top 5 games of E3 2019. I probably won't talk about them as extensively as the Hidden Gems game because I've talked about them in my previous videos in my coverage of E3 this week. But first off, I just want to put out there and get out of the way that Marvel's Avengers, which is coming out May 15th, 2020, wasn't even close to making my list, which may surprise some given the hype that's been attached to the reveal of that game. But there's been no gameplay available to see of this game online. We got basically a CG trailer for it at Square Enix's event. almost universally, all the outlets who have been able to see gameplay of this game are saying that they're seeing too little to on the on-site demos to get a handle on what this game is, what the experience is going to be. Several compare the combat to the Arkham games. The combat demos also reportedly took place exclusively in arena type areas, obscuring any sense of the wider world of the game and what it's like to be in that world. Game Informer also reports that animations look a bit clunky at this point. So, it's possible that maybe they just didn't spend a lot of time to make a vertical slice, and that's fine, if they just want to dedicate all their manpower to getting the game where it needs to be for its release date, next year. But at the same time, at this point, I don't know near enough about the game to have really any eagerness to play it. I mean, sure, I'm interested in the Marvel property, given the movies and stuff, but a crappy, clunky game is not going to, be good just because it has the Marvel property attached to it. Yes, I know it's early days, but even so, all we can go off is what we've seen and what we've heard from those who have seen, more. So I even wonder at this point if the game will be delayed based on what I'm hearing. So does not make my top 5 list. Honorable mentions, though, go to Monster Hunter World Iceborne, coming out September 6th. That was an expansion, so I was like, I don't know, maybe I just shouldn't put it on my list. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake, coming out March 3rd, 2020, which I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. For the first time after seeing the combat system, I'm like, wow, I might really enjoy this game. I don't know, but I went from really like being completely indifferent about the Final Fantasy VII Remake to being like, sitting forward and giving it my attention and thinking, gosh, I should maybe make room to, at the very least, give this one a real good try. All right, top 5 games for me of E3 2019 include at number 5, Wolfenstein Youngblood, coming out July 26th. That's coming up pretty soon. I've just really enjoyed the Wolfenstein games, and so I'm ready for more. I did have some hesitations that I previously expressed, but about the characters, the girls just looking like they're, kind of maniacs with, no real substance to their character, and they just like killing Nazis, and that's all there is to them, But reportedly, as I've learned since then, the sister characters are fleshed out with unique and different personalities. The clips that we saw this year just showed their jubilant Nazi-killing side, but in other situations, they are working through problems they have with how they were raised, which I think is really interesting since I've been such a fan of B.J. Blazkowicz from the last 2 games, to now see him in a different light from the perspective of his daughters as they maybe talk about him and wrestle through how they were raised by him and their mother. So I also heard that they made some adjustments after fans said that Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, was too difficult at times. I played it on the easy difficulty and really didn't have problems because of that. But hey, anytime a dev's saying, hey, we're making a game easier, I'm like, yeah, I got no problem with that. And then you also have an AI companion in single player, which says to me, oh, okay, so I might still be able to enjoy some of those character interactions or whatever kind of like scripted dialogue they're going to have. I might still be able to experience those, even though I'm not going to be playing this, with another person. I'll just be having the single player experience. So all of that just really makes me think, yeah, okay, this one is back on track in my mind to very likely be an experience I'm going to enjoy. Number 4 on my list is The Outer Worlds, coming out October 25th. Man, I just realized as I was thinking about this game, I'm ready for a nice 30-hour choice-driven action RPG. For the last couple of years, my main meat and potatoes of gaming has been big, open-world action RPG or action style of games that haven't had a focus on choice, certainly haven't had a focus on story, and I'm not really into story. That's not what I play games for, but I do like interesting characters to interact with and to make choices and dialogue with that affect the world, that affect other characters in the game. And there's just been a real shortage of those types of games in a nice, meaty, but not like overly drawn out, 30-hour type of RPG experience. It's been years since I played and enjoyed a game like that. I'm thinking Fallout 4 might be the last time. So, and the world and characters of The Outer Worlds looks just like bonkers and darkly funny, which is right up my alley. And the systems that they have in play are, ready to offset my poor shooter skills. They've got a slow motion shooting mechanic, and they've got the ability to give leadership to one of your AI companions that will then cause them to give you pointers during combat and stuff. And there's just a lot of stuff going on that I'm hearing about the game, not only the systems, but the interaction you have with your companions and with the world, that I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for this kind of RPG. So that's The Outer Worlds, coming out October 25th. Number 3 on my list is Watch Dogs Legion. That's coming March 6th, 2020. Man, this looks like it's going to be a crazy ambitious game. The first game was not received very well. The second game, I think, was received better by critics. I'm not sure that it sold really well. It still didn't set the world on fire. And so, you look at Ubisoft and think, well, they could easily just let that series die. But one thing that they've shown they're interested in doing with their IPs is like really committing to them and making adjustments to them based on player feedback, so that they will be something that players will enjoy. We saw that with the release and their post-release treatment of Ghost Recon Wildlands, and with the choices that they've made in changing, the sequel to that. And I think Watch Dogs Legion is just getting some huge changes to the Watch Dogs formula that make the world just crazy interactive. You can recruit any NPC in the world. I've already talked about this. I won't go back into it, but I learned some more about just the nature of each NPC having their own life. That, like in Watch Dogs 2, when you would hack into somebody's phone on the street, you'd get information that this is their job, this is their income, But those were kind of like randomly generated. And in this game, no, if it says they have this job, that's where they're going to be. They're going to go and do that job. If they have, they're going to go home and change clothes and like go sleep at night and stuff. I mean, they go out and live their lives, and you can follow them and track them, and they will live out a life that's consistent with what your hacking information says about them. And the details of that were just stunning for me to hear about. I mean, there's a scenario where, if you want to recruit somebody and you find out they have like an enemy, okay, well, you go beat up the enemy to help get them on your side. But wait, that enemy that you beat up has family, and those family members can be recruited too, and now they hate you and your organization because of what you've done. And the same is true with all the guards that you attack or kill in the game. They can be recruited, or they have family that can potentially be recruited that will not want to be recruited now because of what you've done. There are 20 different archetypes that all NPCs are based on. So even though there's thousands of people in the city, there's about 20 types, quote unquote, of people that you will run into. So maybe that means about 20 different voice actors, but each of them has a fleshed out performances. They're even going to digitally manipulate the voices so that, one version of one archetype is going to sound a little different from another, and it's cutscenes play out completely differently depending on which of these 20 archetypes that you have in that cutscene. You can even hack the hospitals that you beat up, that the people you beat up get sent to, so that you can fast track their recovery or get them killed if you want, I mean, it's just insane. The game is reportedly spearheaded by the guy behind Far Cry 2 at Ubisoft and other games that are known for innovation and pushing boundaries. And so, the puzzles, if they return with the same dumb timed mechanics that I hated in Watch Dogs 2, they might still get me down. We'll see. I just don't know. But everything else I'm hearing about this has me really looking forward to the potential of Watch Dogs Legion, again, coming out March 6th, 2020. Number 2 on my list is Ghost Recon Breakpoint, coming out October 4th. This one, I'm mostly excited about it based on the experience I had with Ghost Recon Wildlands. It was my game of 2017. This one is reportedly a little more difficult and less casual, which does have me as a crappy player a little bit concerned. There are drones instead of just human enemies. There's still plenty of human enemies, but there are drones as well, and they are going to be harder to get your sights on. They're going to spin and flip around in the air, and they're a little bit more bullet spongy, And I'm like, crap, I'm not always really good at targeting bad guys in games. I hope the auto assist is generated generous. Humans still go down with headshots, assuming they don't have like any special protective gear. So the drones and other machinery, are reportedly going to be making things more difficult. But they have announced that sometime post-launch, AI teammates are coming back. I think that will help me with their ability to heal and revive me. And Wildlands, again, did so much right for me. Game of 2017. If Breakpoint is half as good as that one, I'm going to have a great time with it. Finally, the number one game most anticipated by me on my list is Dragon Quest Builders 2, coming out July 12th. Yes, it's possible that in the end I will enjoy Ghost Recon Breakpoint or Watch Dogs Legion more than Dragon Quest Builders. I don't know, but this game, I've really come to enjoy the first game in the series, which I played on and off and had to warm up to a bit. And then, suddenly, I don't know what happened, something clicked, I just quote-unquote got it. I locked onto a groove with Dragon Quest Builders that I just loved. Such a cool, chill-out game at the end of a workday for me. And added features for the sequel, like farming, villagers to help building, swimming, gliding, bigger areas, and a bigger building capacity. All those just check the right boxes to make this something that could end up being my game of 2019. I don't know. Either way, it's the game on my list that's coming the soonest. I'm almost equally excited about all 5 of these games, and so the fact that this one is just coming the soonest in just a few weeks, that's enough to enhance my anticipation and put it at the top of my list. All right, well, man, I've never had as many as 5 games featured at E3 coming out within 9 months that I am this confident I will enjoy. It's possible that when I play them, I won't enjoy them. The jury, of course, is still out until then, and I've been wrong about games that I have anticipated in the past from E3, but I've never felt this good about this many games at a single E3. And with my number one on the list just weeks from release, I'm all the more excited coming off of E3 this year. And yet, I am also glad that it is over. By Monday, I was feeling overstimulated, and by Wednesday, I was just like fried and going numb, looking at stuff. I was like, is this cool? I can't tell what's cool anymore. And so it was really a repeat of the experience I felt last year by the end of the week, after which I shared a few thoughts that I actually want to just share again for you now. Giving a whole work week to E3 each year is an interesting experience for me, and I think it always exposes some truth to me about the nature of entertainment. All week long, these publishers and these developers are promoting what they've made, fans are getting excited, and by the end of the week, I've embraced the hype and have a list of games that I put on my calendar and start planning my budget accordingly for. But by the last couple of days of the week, even though I'm still eagerly anticipating some games that sound exciting, even though I've had a lot of fun immersing myself in the hobby, I feel kind of like this weird emptiness clinging to me, a desire to kind of shake off the week and get back into work that feels more immediately purposeful. And I wonder if the author of Ecclesiastes felt something similar. After he had thrown himself into pleasure for an extended period of time, he wrote in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, this is from the ESV, "I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it?" So he reached this point where laughing even seemed so out of place as to be insane behavior, and he saw that his pleasure, indulged in too much, had become something without purpose. Entertainment can be a great source of refreshment, but when we stay in it too long or give it too much importance in our thought lives, we end up not getting from it what we had hoped, and can even discover that we have wasted precious time that could have been given to fulfilling our purpose and resulting in a more lasting sense of satisfaction. It's not that entertainment is bad or without purpose. In fact, if we have the means and opportunity to enjoy wealth and possessions now and then, we're encouraged to enjoy them as a gift from God, as well as find the joy and fulfillment that's hiding in our day-to-day work. And we see that, I think, in Ecclesiastes 5, verses 18 through 20. But our purpose, given by our Creator, should be our aim above all. The author of Ecclesiastes summarizes his final thoughts in chapter 12, verses 13 and 14 by saying, "The end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, every secret thing, whether good or evil." Above and beyond the free gift of eternal life, there is reward waiting for us in proportion to how we engage with our purpose in this life, and absence of reward in proportion to how we don't. Entertainment can give us some quick highs, but life lived in our intended purpose yields unimaginable rewards after this life. And in the meantime, it yields lasting hope, endurance, and fulfillment. Those are all my thoughts for now. I hope you enjoyed E3 and what I had to say about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you're excited about that you heard about from E3, or what you wished you would have seen. Don't forget to check out Spirit Blade Legacy Edition, our genre-bending sci-fi fantasy audio drama that you can check out in its entirety right here at youtube.com/christiangeekcentral. And then I hope, of course, you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. I've created some new tiers for our Patreon. On top of many of our original perks, I've added Discord live events, spoiler chat videos, and more. You can get all the info at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions.